So will you be receiving a stimulus check this month? I know that's the question that many of you want to be answered. Listen to this. You are eligible to receive more stimulus checks from a new federal program. This is really great because it's going to help so many people that are financially struggling due to the crisis. So remember folks, on this channel, I always do my very best in providing you with the most up-to-date and reliable stimulus check and social security news. So it really means a lot to me if you could subscribe to the channel.
An executive order to ensure that the federal government puts you, the American people, at the front of the line and for first in everything we do. I'm directing 17 agencies here to focus on more than 30 key areas to make it easier to apply for services and benefits that they're entitled to, they paid for, theirs, their government.
Now back to the breaking news folks, the Restaurant Meals program also covers people with disabilities and people experiencing homelessness. The program is most widely available in California and Arizona. But some really good news is that many states across the country are beginning to have this program available. States like Maryland and Illinois are starting up their operations for this relief program right now, which is really good to know. It can be very difficult right now to buy groceries, especially with prices rising very quickly. Sadly, the inflation rates are hiking up, and that's a key measure of inflation climbed to a level not seen since June of 1982, and that's absolutely ridiculous.
Once again, those at the very top get the biggest breaks. And what do we have to show for it? Even our Republican friends are now beginning to admit there's no evidence these tax cuts are being put to work in the economy. No new growth, just more debt. And that puts middle-class programs that they rely on and they've worked for at real risk.
Folks, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has also reported that consumer price inflation rose by 6.8% without seasonal adjustments over the past 12 months. So it is extremely important that Congress continues to provide the American people with more stimulus money through relief programs. Do you believe that President Biden can send out the fourth stimulus check, folks? Tell me in the comments below.
Some money. We got your $480 million last year, the first increase for the administration of Social Security in many, many years. Because we know that in Vermont or in Oregon and all over this country, when people are walking into or calling up Social Security offices, they're not getting the kind of response that they need because of lack of staffing.
Now, nutrition experts and advocates also say that the Restaurant Meals program has seen a very sudden growth, and people that are not on Social Security are receiving these stimulus checks. Now, this is in thanks to a larger push to expand access to the SNAP program. Advocates and Americans are worried about what these relief programs mean for people once they expire. But let's see what happens, everybody. That's why I believe Congress should pass another stimulus relief package very soon. It is completely necessary as the crisis just continues to negatively impact the country. Lawmakers cannot ignore the fact that prices are rising like crazy. Millions of Americans are beginning to no longer be able to afford the same food.
Well, we can put forth Social Security for our children. This will make a tremendous difference in the lives of America's families, and so proud that so many children will be taken out of poverty. My whole thing in politics, my why, was the sadness over 1 in 5 children living in poverty in America. 1 in 5 children in America going to sleep hungry at night. How could it be? Well, this tax credit, I call it the Biden tax credit. Thank you, Mr. President. Does a lot to alleviate that.
Millions of Americans are beginning to no longer be able to afford the same food that they just bought a couple months ago. That's because the crisis is only making things worse. Now, everyone in Congress needs to make sure that the most poor people are not left out of receiving any stimulus money. More states and cities need to implement better financial relief programs to help Americans that are financially struggling to stay afloat. Let's not forget that millions of stimulus payments have been mailed out since October. That's all part of Gavin Newsom's Golden State Stimulus Program. That's really amazing. Newsom has approved about $12 billion in stimulus relief. That's for all eligible residents of California. The latest round of stimulus checks are totaling about $575 million, which is a ton of money. And I know many of you have said that you have not received your fourth stimulus check from your state yet. Well, the Franchise Tax Board has just reported that one of the later batches of payments will be sent out by January 11th, and it should arrive around 3 weeks later. So it seems that these payments will need some extra time to process for accuracy and completeness. Now, it is ridiculous, everybody, how long it is taking for these checks to go. These payments should be sent out much quicker, but most residents that were eligible received their stimulus payments via direct deposit late last year. If you are a California resident and are wondering if you qualify for a fourth stimulus check, well, the Franchise Tax Board has said that California residents were required to file their tax returns by October 15th if they wanted to receive a state stimulus check. Eligible residents must have also lived in a Golden State for half of the 2020 tax year and be a resident on that date that the payment is issued. Now, I do support sending out the fourth stimulus checks to everyone in all states across the country. All Americans have been impacted by this crisis, and they deserve more stimulus money. If you believe that President Biden should do a better job in sending out more stimulus payments, then tell me in the comments.
Stimulus check relief, not only in the EITC, but also people that have been beneficiaries of CalWORKs, SSI, SSIP, and the CAPI program. We're also providing support in the way of not only direct checks to that cohort, but as the speaker rightfully noted, regardless of your status, those that have been left behind in that federal stimulus, California is not going to leave you behind. And I want to just congratulate the speaker and the pro tem for their leadership and their demonstrable example of making sure that we're there for the folks that have always been there for us. I just got back from Arvin in Kern County. I had the privilege of being in Madera some 12 or so hours ago. Farm workers, food workers, never took a day off, never complained, and we're there to make sure that everything was on your table and tables all across this country. And I'm very honored to be here today as governor of this state that's not leaving those folks behind as it relates to legislation that addresses their need and provide relief directly, not only to individuals, but households of mixed status. And that's something, frankly, distinctive in this country. I don't know many other states, if any other state, that does what this state is doing, and for that we are not ashamed, we are proud. And so I just want to acknowledge their leadership and the remarkable support that we saw, as the pro tem said, across the spectrum, bipartisan support to advance this collective cause. So that cause, by the way, includes grants, $5,000 to $25,000 grants for small businesses, nonprofits, cultural institutions, an additional $2.075 billion in grants that will start going out, building on the $500 million of grants that have already been going out supporting small business. And I'll remind you, grants, not loans, a profoundly important distinction. So that's number one. Number two, we're providing relief in the way of fees and licenses. For 2 years, there'll be no cosmetology, barbering licenses. There'll be no fees associated with those licenses or with alcohol beverage licenses. I'll give you an example. The 59,000 businesses that have ABC licenses, some of those license fees are as much as $1,235.